Hi everyone, this is Claudia from Kokoro No Melody. Today I am excited to do this video. One of my friends, Tanya, she sent me her writing and she actually asked me to give her some feedback. For those of you who don't know Tanya, she is a very talented engraver from Bulgaria and she's been doing engraving for 10 years. So I was kind of surprised when she actually sent me a picture of her writing and she asked me for feedback. But she just recently picked up some ink and paper and nib, and she started working on her calligraphy writing on paper. So she just wanted me to give her some feedback and her suggestions to improve her writing. And I mean, all of us need to critique our work and analyze our work in order to improve. So that's why I want to do this video with you. And this is a beautiful, beautiful quote that she wrote, and you can see right away that it is definitely Tanya's handwriting because she has very unique writing. And I encourage every one of you to, no matter what it is, you develop your own style, because we all have our personality and you want to inject that personality in there. And so right away I could see that the letters are on slant. So you can see all the angles right here. Pretty much all of the letters are at the angle that she was writing on, which is really good. And the flourishes, you could tell, is the curve in the same direction as it's very consistent. And I especially love this T down here. And Tanya, I'm going to have to steal this T. I'm telling you, it's really beautiful. I love how this one just curl right up here, and there's that little loop right here. And as I said, it's a very beautiful piece, and you can totally see Tanya's personality in there, and that's her writing. There are a few things that I do notice. For example, the thickness right here on the curve down here is very thick right here before curling. So one of the things that we need to work on is making sure that before we do the turn, we have to lessen the pressure to bring that thin line up and make it very distinct. So for example, something like this. So for example, I need to when we write the my slant is extremely big because I do Copperplate, and the slant angle that I use is 55 degree, and you can tell right away that my slant angle is steeper than Tanya's. But I'm just going to show you quickly what I mean. So whenever you write, you want to make sure that the nib runs along the slant angle that you want to work on. It's on the camera there is a slight tilt, so it doesn't show really well, but let me adjust it a little bit so maybe it will show better. So when you're writing, you want to make sure that the eyelid of the nib and the two lines that separate, that angle runs along the slant of your script. So for example, when we write the you want to make sure that it comes down, and before we turn, we want to lessen up the pressure to before we actually turn up. And since I was talking and writing at the same time, I lessened up the pressure even way before I should have. So let me try again. So let's try it. And that I'm totally wiggly. Try again. So then you see it thins down right here, and then it tapers off before you do the turn. Okay, And so a lot of these, we really need to work on that. And I sometimes, it happens to me too, especially if, let's say, the nib is not at the correct angle. For example, the angle is right here, and when you're writing, and your nib is off this way, sometimes when you do the turn, one of the tines will drag, and so that's what causes the thick line in the bottom. Or sometimes even when your nib itself is not parallel to the paper. So for example, one side of your nib is a little bit too low compared to the other one. When you're turning, it will also drag on the bottom. So that's one thing that we need to work on. The other thing that I notice is that another suggestion that I have is also when you're making the turn, make sure that you slow down. So make sure that you slow down, lessen the pressure before you turn, and then you go up. Because if as you're going really fast, your pressure is not going to be lessened. You're still going to have that pressure down here. The other thing that I notice is that you may want to give the letters a little bit more space so that they can breathe. So I would suggest putting the stroke of the U just a tiny bit, a fraction, a little bit further away from the G, so it's not so squished here. And you could give the letters a little bit more room to breathe. Especially like here, you may want to bring the H a little bit closer, so it's not so far. And this one definitely need to increase the space again, just to give that H a little bit more of its personal space. Let's see, and in terms of flourishes, it's really nice that the curvature of the flourish is at the same angle, but for the overall piece itself, I noticed that there's a lot of space up here and there's a lot of space down here. Now, when we're looking at a quote like this, we want to make sure that we focus on the important words. For example, the language, because with so many flourishes, your language is one of the important words in the message. So you want to highlight that and give it a little bit more embellishment on the word. And when it comes to words like the, it's less of an important. So you may not need to flourish it so that it creates a very busy visual over here. So one of the suggestions that I could make is, for example, you can, this is nice here, but because there's space here, so I would bring it over and round and like drag it over here. And then I would bring the language. This one, the duh, is fine because we don't have a lot of things going on up here with the is down here and there's space up here. The flourish on the duh is fine. But in terms of the language, I would definitely give it a little bit more play up here so that we can embellish this this word right here, and even like bring up this right here so it can fill up a little bit more space here. I would decrease it. I would just keep it like that, or it's either this H or this H. I would decrease the amount of flourish right here so it's not so busy here, and this is fine. Same thing for here. We want to lessen the amount. Maybe we would want to do the embellishment up here so that we can emphasize on the blind, and I will bring up maybe like a flourish right here so that we can fill up this little bit of a space. So one of the examples that I did is this. So I just wrote it. Now, I mean, I did this freehand, so even for my own, because I did the what happened was when I wrote this word, I actually wrote the D first before coming down. I would have you did this part of the loop first for the K, and maybe even bring it up a little bit more, and then bring this over to loop it around so that we can focus a little bit on the kindness. And so I did the flourish right here and did a little bit, even though there's a little bit space is fine, because there is a little bit space here, so you do want to give it a little bit breathing room. Now, because I did a freehand, I didn't really measure it out before I'm writing this, I would have bring this whole sentence a little bit to the right so that the H and the G is definitely not crossing each other. But here, as you can see, because there are so many H's and ascenders, by me putting this one as a normal H, it gives the words a little bit more space. But at the same time, you want to focus on the words that are important in the sentence. And here, for example, because I brought the F down, and in order not to crowd this whole space, I only did a very minimalist L in order to do that. I could have brought this over, but I feel like it's kind of infringing onto the can, so I just want to, because there's a little bit space in the can on the second line, I just want to give it a little bit more space on the can for the third line, and I just want to fill out this space a little bit with this flourish. So this would have how I would have done the writing myself, but definitely you can, this is just my suggestion, so but it's more like playing around with the flourishes until you can see what works and what doesn't work. Is just so a little bit busy right here, and there is not a lot going on here, so that's what the suggestions I would have. But yeah, if there is anything, if there's any writing that you want me to go through, give you suggestions, send me a message, DM me, send me a picture of your writing, and I can see what I can suggest. It is something that I would actually like to do when I do my writing. I want to do some critiquing work of my own so that I can also improve. For example, as you can see here, my language right here is a little bit more space than all these words. I definitely need to work on the spacing between the words right here. And for example, here I do notice that when I write my H's, I press a little bit too fast, put a little bit pressure a little too fast before coming down. I should have just came across first, came up and over first, and then I start doing the pressure so that it's less pressure up here. It will give the effects a little bit better in terms of the writing. And another thing that I see is oh, so many things. My A's and my D's, especially my D's, I know I need to work on is I need to give it a little bit more space between the oval or the eclipse and the stroke, so that I don't infringe onto this part of the word. But sometimes what happens is when I feel like I'm writing it so off far out, then I start wiggling my pen. So there are many things I need to work on. For example, this K, I definitely need to bring it in a little bit more so it's not so fat with so much space here. So yeah, it would be something that I would like to do, is to do a critique session of my own work, or if you're interested, you can send me your work and we can go through it together. If you have any other suggestions for the piece, for Tanya, definitely leave a comment below. It was such a great time. I love Tanya. She's a beautiful person and she's so nice. She's just my angel. She's like my big sister. So I will leave her link down there. Check out her IG, Instagram. She has awesome engraving photos, and go check out her stuff, and I will talk to you soon. I'll make another video soon. Okay, thank you very much. Good night.